on, everybody? This is your boy Greg, and welcome to another installment of the Beer Flow podcast. How's everyone doing? So, in this episode, we had the distinct pleasure of sitting down and talking with a Bay Area radio personality by the name of Matt Kolsky. And in listening to the interview, you'll see why we chose Matt Kolsky to do the interview. And he was absolutely kind enough to sit down and talk with us for a few minutes. And what was great was when I reached out to him, he was absolutely receptive and totally cool about everything. And what was also cool was, I left him the option as to where we should meet, if we wanted to do this over the phone, this and that. Well, he picked this great spot out in Berkeley. So shout out to the Missouri Lounge. If you're out in the Bay Area, if you're out in Berkeley, if you get a chance, check it out. It's a great spot. So sit back, relax, crack one open, and listen to our time that I had with Matt Kolsky, talking all things hip hop, talking Luke Skywalker, talking grandmas. It's awesome. Just take a look, enjoy, take a listen, I should say. Enjoy. And this is my time with radio personality from the Bay Area, Matt Kolsky, talking hip hop. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installment of the Beer Flow podcast. And I have definitely the distinct pleasure of hanging out with... I've met this dude once, and I'll get into that, but my man Matt Kolsky, he's a Bay Area broadcasting phenom. You may have heard him before. Lots of stories. To get right into it, here's why I tapped you.
Okay.
All right.
Wait, hold on. Before that,
Okay.
did you just say tapped because it's like
Well,
we're staying on the beer theme? Was that like am I going to be confronted with beer puns throughout?
That was
the course
so
we have to do?
unintentional that
Okay.
I
we
almost
can cut
feel
this out, and you can pretend that it was intentional.
Oh no, we don't cut. We don't.
There's no edit.
There's no edit.
We can't fix this in post.
No, we could.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just fucking with you. Feel free to curse. I know.
Cool.
I
will.
We have listeners. They're worldwide, but they understand. It's
Okay.
beer. It's beer and hip hop.
Great.
No pun intended with the tapped, but the reason why I did tap you was my partner and I, we went to Oktoberfest.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
it was a great day for everyone. Everyone they were full of it. They were just going with it. And I went up to the bar and I told my boys, like, hey, I go, that's Kolsky. And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah. I go, he knows about hip hop. He's like, really? And I was like, dude, trust me, I've heard him talk about I want to talk to him. So I'm sure you do not remember this conversation. You said you were on your fifth beer and you were feeling it. And I remember distinctly you had there was this high gravity, crazy high.
Yeah, well, the problem with Oktoberfest was it was like, try these 17 delicious 8.5 ABV beers, and I did.
Well, you told me that. You had said, you're like, this is, I don't know what the fuck this is, but it's 8 point something. And I was like, all right, cool. And I was like, hey, you like hip hop? And you said, yeah, I just saw Chance last night.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember, it was kind of around when Chance, his latest album first came out. And I was like, I didn't mean to question. I'm sure I came off like an ass. And I was like, really? And you're like, oh, dude, his mixtape stuff is incredible. He puts on a great show. And I was like, huh. All right, dude. Hey, it was good talking to you. And I left, and I was like, and then my partner was like,
judged me.
There was a little bit of judgment, but I was like, well, maybe because he's a little younger than I am, maybe he's in that demographic.
I don't think I am, but let's find out.
Well, so I choose not to reveal my true age, but I will say I graduated high school in the early 90s.
Okay. So you got a few years on me.
Just a couple. I mean, not much, but it is enough to be well, okay, so I'll follow up. I'm now in that point.
Well, it's gonna affect your taste in hip hop.
Well, not only that, I'm now become, and this is a change in progress. This is hopefully progress. Is that I'm turning into the man on the lawn. Get off my lawn.
Sure.
And this is my hip hop. You kids don't know shit. I'm tired of your crap. But I've heard you speak, and I've heard you speak passionately about hip hop, and I was like, I really wanted to talk to Matt, and I wanted to hear his take on certain things. So,
sure,
ladies and gentlemen, Matt Kolsky, welcome to the Beer Flow.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Podcast with beer in the name. I just got the flow pun with the hip hop part. I'm very excited. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Well, okay. So bringing it back to Chance, I listened to your podcast, and we'll get back to that. And Derek, your co-host Derek Madden.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember the conversation you two had about the Chance the Rapper show and how he had caught him early. And I think I was exactly in that same spot that he was. And inadvertently, because of
like
you.
Average backpack rapper, smiles a lot.
Yeah,
doesn't seem that interesting.
Right. But then after Oktoberfest, I said, okay, well, I respect Kolsky's opinion, so I'm going to go back.
That.
And I listened, and then I saw some of his live performances. I'm like, holy shit, he's pretty awesome. And then I started really listening to him. And I was like, so to you, I have to say thanks. You totally changed my opinion on Chance the Rapper.
Nice.
And to me,
winning the hearts and minds of America, one person at a time.
One old guy at a time. And I guess what I'm trying to come to is that this season of the Beer Flow, I'm trying new things. Things I hate, trying to confront them head on. Not so much fears. But
just like past dislikes. You're trying to open your mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so what is it about it that I don't like? I know what I don't like, but is there anything that I could like? So, first question to you is, did you ever see that movie? I know you're a huge movie fan.
I am.
Cinema and film. Do you remember the opening sequence in the movie Brown Sugar? When she starts interviewing all these...
I've seen Brown Sugar, certainly. It's been a while, so I don't remember offhand the opening sequence.
The opening sequence was interviewing all these rappers, and her first question was, when did you first fall in love with hip-hop?
Right, absolutely.
So my question to you, to take from Brown Sugar, when did you first fall in love with hip-hop?
I can pinpoint this for you.
Nice.
I had never thought about this before, but I can pinpoint it for you. I might need to look some things up, but I want to say it would have been around 1992 or 3. Not that I hadn't heard. I mean, I had an MC Hammer tape at that point already, I'm sure. Maybe some Vanilla Ice. But the thing that really... I knew the Too Legit to Quit hand motions and whatnot. That may have been after. Anyway.
I can do it right now, and it would be embarrassing.
No, we all know how to do that. We don't anymore, but we know how. It was a tape that, back in the days of the actual mix tape, kids understand, not mixtape, but a mix tape, which was a tape your friend made you with songs from a bunch of different groups on it.
Right.
And a tape is never mind. You'll understand.
Yeah. It's an intimate thing.
I can't explain the whole world to everyone.
You can try, but
So my friend Brett Sims, who I'm no longer friends with, not for any nasty reason. I don't know what he's up to these days. But Brett Sims gave me a tape. The only 2 songs on that tape that I can remember are still 2 of my probably 10 or 20 favorite songs of all time to this day. And they are the Nirvana song In Bloom.
Love that song.
And EPMD's The Crossover.
Nice. Very nice.
That was the track for me that, again, not that I hadn't heard hip-hop or didn't like it, but, my MC Hammer, Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him tape was right next to Vanilla Ice, which was right next to Technotronic, Pump Up the Jam. So that's all. And CNC Music Factor. That was pop music. That was a kid listening to whatever was on the radio.
Right.
The first song that I didn't hear on the radio that I was like, oh, this is that shit. This is the business, if you will.
Right.
Was EPMD's The Crossover.
Love that song.
And then that whole album, which I think is Business Never Personal. But all their albums have titles that are like 2 words apart, so it's hard to remember. I think it was Business Never Personal. I got that tape and sort of took off from there. And, by then it's Tupac and Biggie. It's all that great 90s stuff. Tribe Called Quest. I still remember we were waiting for Beats, Rhymes, and Life when that came out, which I think is like 96, right? So it was like...
Beats, Rhymes, 96. 95,
yeah,
96.
because that's after Low End Theory, Midnight Marauders,
Right.
and like Tribe is hot. And it was like, oh, the new Tribe album. I remember the day I bought Beats, Rhymes, and Life because it had that holographic cover.
Right. Yeah. It was in the corner.
The little like person moved on it if you
Right.
if you
caught
anyway.
it just right. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it was that. It was EPMD first, and then all that sort of Tribe and De La I was really into in middle school and high school too.
So at that point, you kind of just went down the rabbit hole and just started.
Right, and then you get all the new stuff. From then on out, I've always been a guy who I played music as a kid.
Okay.
I loved music from a very early age. Like I was a diehard Billy Joel fan by like 5 years old. You know,
Nothing
like
wrong
I
with
was.
Joel.
Oh, gotta love the Joel.
Yeah.
So, I always, since I had the wherewithal, and especially since the internet,
Right.
I've always been on. You know, like I still to this day get allmusic.com, which is a great place to like look up albums and.
Really?
Oh yeah, would recommend 5 stars. Allmusic.com. They send out a weekly email that's just like this week's notable new releases, and there's somewhere between 20 and 40 albums on there of every genre. And every week, I just like look through it for stuff, and sometimes I literally will be like, "Oh, that album says it's like an experimental psychedelic rock album by some band which has a cool name. I'll go check that out on Spotify." Like, I spend a lot. Especially now that I have free days, I spend a lot of time just looking at music, trying to find what's new and interesting and trying to hear good stuff. I was at a concert last night, and I'm going to one tonight.
Where were we at last night?
Roger Waters.
Oh, okay.
Of Pink Floyd
Right.
fame. Tonight might be more up your alley. I'm going to see DJ Premier.
What?
Yeah.
What? Oh.
This one, very lucky. A buddy was just like, hey, I got an extra ticket for DJ Premier at the Regency Ballroom or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, there was a lot there.
No,
I gave you a lot.
No, I'm all for it. Well, you mentioned. Okay, so I'm just
Dive back in. EPMD was the answer to your question.
See, this is what I appreciate about you is you have a love of film, as do I. I have a very Tarantino-esque around the world way of explaining things, and I think you are of the same ilk, which I appreciate.
I have also, this will come through, a love of talking.
Nothing wrong with that.
So,
feel
free to feel. Yes, exactly. It's either good or bad. Feel free to cut me off if it becomes bad.
No, not a problem. Well, you mentioned Tupac and Biggie, and to me, it's always been Tupac and Biggie, Coke and Pepsi. So, who do you got?
Biggie.
Okay, so I'd like to hear why.
No shade to Pac, of course.
Right.
You know, it's these conversations get confused, I think, sometimes because you're talking about degrees of greatness.
Right.
Like we can argue about, like when I say fuck Kobe or like whatever, he sucked, I don't actually mean Kobe sucks. I mean like he's not Michael Jordan. Like I'm comparing him to the best ever,
Right.
It's like and in those conversations you'll talk about flaws or whatever, and it's like, yeah, but it's it's the scuff mark on the Mona Lisa. Like we're not talking about Tupac's great.
Right. I mean, if you were building a dream team, he'd still be on there.
Probably. For me, I'm not a huge lyrics guy.
All right.
Which I don't mean that about hip hop specifically. I mean that generally. So like, for instance, in rock music, even I've had the experience recently of realizing as I sing lyrics that I know by heart that I never actually thought about what they were saying before, and suddenly realizing 20 years in what the song's about.
Right.
To me, like, voice first, nothing against poetry, but for me as a listener, voice, whether singing or hip hop, is first an instrument and second a speech, text.
Okay.
Right? That's just preference.
So is it
I'm not
more delivery over content?
Yes, for me.
Okay.
Not that sometimes content is great. And
right.
Tupac is a poet. That's what he.
No, I totally
as
agree.
an artist, his best talent was the poetry. I think.
No, I
Nothing,
totally agree.
Again, degrees of greatness, right?
Yeah, plus
great
we're in the East
voice.
Bay, so
Yeah, great voice, great flow. Tupac's great, but his greatest gift as a hip hop artist was the poetry. I think.
no, I agree. The fact that he was absolutely prolific. To me, there was
and he didn't
about that.
like right, and there's producers making the beats, so the prolificness of Tupac is the writing, and
Absolutely.
to have written so much and to have such a high percentage of it be really smart and interesting and thoughtful, certainly by the standards of gangster rap,
Right.
I think that is his chief accomplishment. But to me, the like hardcore East Coast sample heavy beats with the like percussive flow of Biggie, that to me is just, from a taste perspective, I always liked it better.
My facial expression may not express that, but I absolutely agree. I've always said Biggie
Really?
over Pac. I've always said Biggie over Pac, probably because I had slight favoritism towards the East Coast, because I'm like, West Coast all sounds the same. I mean, minus everything NWA did, minus everything E40 did, minus everything Digital Underground, all those guys.
We're gonna have to talk. We're gonna have to talk about E40 because I'm fascinated. You grew up in the Bay Area.
Absolutely. But I mean,
do you know that no one knows who E40 is outside of the Bay Area?
One of the greatest lyrics ever said in hip hop was, "I come from the soil where these rappers get their lingo from." I was like, everyone in the Bay Area took notice and yes, that's totally true. But somebody in Spokane, somebody in the Bronx, nobody knows what the hell that even means.
That's right.
Or who said it.
I'm not saying the real crazy hip hop heads hadn't heard of E40.
Right.
I'm saying generally,
right,
people in the Bay Area have this picture of E40 as like having a certain level of fame and like people know who he is. And the rest of the country, he is like a million levels below that.
Oh, absolutely.
I definitely had never heard of E40 before I moved to California.
And that makes sense.
And I'd heard of Too Short, obviously.
Right.
So I knew what hyphy was. You know what I mean? Like, I had a picture of the Bay Area hip hop scene, and that's as a guy who listened to a lot of hip hop in high school. And I had never heard the name E40 in my life. But he turns out to be, now having been in the Bay for most of the last decade, he turns out to be a delightful character.
Oh,
and he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Right. That's the one thing I appreciate the most, is that he is absolutely real. And yes, he is going to be courtside at a Warriors game, no matter what level.
And guess what?
In the playoffs they're going to be at.
When he's courtside at the Warriors game and they play choices, he's going to rap along. And I appreciate that.
That's so good.
I appreciate that.
That's so good.
Yeah, no, E40 is great. Sorry, I forgot how we got onto that tangent, but there's this hilarious disconnect where, like, if you talk to anyone between 25 and 40 who loves hip hop, who's from the Bay Area, E40 in their mind is like a founding father. And everywhere else, people are like, who?
Yeah. No, and I get that to a point, but I think I've always been, thank God I was taught, think globally, not just locally.
Totally.
And so I was like, okay, well, there's, not, this isn't here in LA. This isn't here. And I was like, okay, well then what is here? And then
and it's funny too. I don't know why. It has to be partially his choice.
And that's fine.
Because I don't know why he doesn't, I don't know what, his style is so distinct and fun. But I don't know. He just doesn't seem to pop the way other guys do. I don't know what it is.
I would assume it's just kind of, there's a comfort in the level that he's at. It's like, no, I'm cool.
I think it might be.
I
think it might be.
He enjoys his seats. Why not?
Yeah. Funny side story that I don't totally remember. A couple weeks ago at this very bar, I had a random conversation with a guy who told some weird story about maybe like E40's son renting out a warehouse this guy owned to shoot a music video.
What?
And maybe is E40's son like real straight edge or something? Do you know about this?
I couldn't even tell you.
Whatever.
I usually don't follow
like
the
I said,
actual
I don't
lives
remember.
of them. Right?
I don't remember the side story very well.
It happens.
But it was at this bar, so local tie.
Shout out to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So
shout out Missouri Lounge, Berkeley.
Absolutely. By the way, this place is fucking great. There's somebody.
You never been here before?
Never.
I like to think of this as the East Bay's answer to Zeitgeist in San Francisco.
Okay. All right. No.
It's like a slightly hippier Zeitgeist.
Well, it definitely caught the hippie vibe when I walked in.
Because Zeitgeist is like straight bikers.
Oh, okay.
But design like feel big outdoor backyard, picnic tables, that sort of thing. You never been to Zeitgeist?
I've been bar hopping.
So this is just my local dive.
Okay.
As a beer guy, you should go to Zeitgeist.
My partner, who's not here, Einstein, he's shout out to Einstein. He's doing his thing. He's got to do something right now, but he'll just say, "Here, we're gonna go here." Okay, we're gonna go here. As any great producer, here you're gonna talk here.
That is great.
And I was like, okay,
that's great. That's exactly what you want your producer to do. Just tell me where to be.
Yeah, shout out Einstein. So let's talk about the current state of hip hop.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I interrupted your thoughts on Chance.
Chance, we're good. We're good on Chance. But
right.
I want to know what is your take on like the current state? I mean, like now that there's finally a phrase or a term, trap music, which I have issue with because I am old school. I'm starting to listen to it. I got the neighbors' kids. Like, here, listen to this. And God bless them. They're not like little dumb kids. They knew, and I say this all the time, they knew Led Zeppelin lyrics and music and can play U2 on guitar before they knew any Tupac, before they knew any Biggie. So they're pretty credible as far as little kids go. High school kids, I should say.
Right.
But
that's little enough.
Exactly. They can't buy me a beer, so they're little. But they'll go back and forth with me. They know who Premier is. They know who DJ Quick. They know all these guys, and they say, okay, well, check this out. This is a new guy. Okay. And so I'll listen to it, and I'm like, no, this sucks. Or they're like, what about this? Okay, that's pretty cool. So you tell me, what do you think of the current state of hip-hop right now?
Well, okay, first of all, I mean, you mentioned trap music, so I think that's the question you're asking. But Chance, Kendrick, Kanye, when the moment is right.
Yeah, he's got his moments. That's it exactly.
I love Life of Pablo. Do
you really?
The buzz around love is a strong word. The buzz around it and the nonsense of him has gotten uncomfortable. But I think if you listen back to Life of Pablo, there's a lot of really good music on that album.
Yeah,
it's not College Dropout, but
nothing really
is. It's not my. I love My Beautiful Dark Fantasy.
That is a great
It's not
album.
that, but I do think it's a good hip hop album by normal standards.
Right.
But it's hard to know what to think at this point about Kanye. But there are guys who are doing what you and I think of as real hip hop who still do a good job.
Right.
I mean, Kendrick, obviously, number one.
Right.
And I think there are other interesting young guys. While I'm here, you may have heard this if you listen to my podcast, but there's a kid from my town, Evanston, named Kweku Collins, who's like kind of on the come up that I think is a really interesting sort of almost R&B / hip hop kind of talent. I don't know exactly what he's going to do. I don't think his albums so far have totally fleshed out what he's going to do, but I think he's really talented. Trap music is something else.
Thank you.
But about 6 months ago, maybe more now, maybe like 8 or 10 months ago, I kind of turned around on it a little bit.
Anyone in particular?
Migos were a big help.
Okay.
Okay. And I think about it like, I actually had this conversation on my podcast. By the way, shouts out Toy Department. Listen to my podcast. But
no, we're all for the cross motion.
Yeah, absolutely. On the I just talked about this today tip. expectation management is a big part of anything. And we were talking about this in the context of comic book movies.
Okay.
Like, have you seen Wonder Woman by any chance?
I just talked about that with the wife. Not yet. I plan on seeing it this weekend.
You promised the wife.
Well, I promised to take her dad.
Oh, wow. Her dad.
Yeah, well,
okay,
my father-in-law and I, we're he goes to all the Giants games with me.
Nice.
And,
oh, dude, that's like a dream scenario.
It's nice.
You don't want a shitty father-in-law.
No, absolutely. Shout out to my DD Mark.
So, yeah. You don't expect a comic book film to deliver the same goods as a Tarantino, since you brought him up. You know, or a Woody Allen film.
Okay.
Like, if you walk into the theater of those two movies expecting the same thing, you're going to be disappointed at least once.
Okay. No, I get that.
And trap music, for the most part, isn't as thoughtful or creative as the hip hop that we both love. From a lyrical perspective, it's not as original, I don't think, in a lot of ways.
Okay. So would it be fair
to
say...
But it's party music.
Right.
And some of it is a great party.
Okay.
And I think at a certain point, at some point when I was talking about it, I used the Dr. Strangelove title. Okay. So you know the movie Dr. Strangelove, the subtitle is like, it's Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, I think is the...
It's like 1,000 words.
Right, it's something like that.
Right.
And it's like, at a certain point, sometime in 2016, I decided to stop worrying and enjoy the party side of trap music.
So would it be fair to say
when you know, Bad and Bougie, Slippery,
yeah,
these songs are fun.
Okay.
Are they great? Probably not. But are they great at doing what they set out to do? I think they might be.
See, I always
What's
thought...
the goal, right?
I thought of trap music, I'm like, they're like a can of Pringles. You know they're not great. They're not artisanal.
Yes.
But you probably won't be disappointed.
It's no kettle chip.
Absolutely. But
you're going to eat the whole tin.
Don't leave it alone with me because they'll be gone. So, I mean...
Right. It's Oreos.
Right.
It's like, I've had good cookies and this is not it. But I will eat the whole box if you leave it in front of me with a glass of milk.
Yeah. I mean, I listen to Travis Scott and I'm like... And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm bobbing my head. This is okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
And I was just listening.
I had the Migos album on repeat in my car for a few weeks, and I didn't find myself unhappy that often.
Well, I mean,
you know,
I get it, and I think that's part of my growth that I'm.
But it's pop music too. I mean, I think that's the other thing we have to look at, right? Is like when you asked me what got me into it, and when we talk about real hip-hop, my answer is EPMD, right? But like I said, I was already listening to Vanilla Ice and Hammer and Technotronic, and like Migos is the MC Hammer, Technotronic, and Vanilla Ice of our time.
See, I think too is like stuff like that. It's great for the time.
Yeah.
It's not going to have...
Don't tell me you never danced to a Britney Spears song. That happened in your life, you know? You may not have been happy.
Oh, no.
But, like, you were
this is
at
where
a
the
party.
age comes into play. I had...
Okay, New Kids on the Block.
I'll say Paula Abdul.
Okay,
Paula Abdul. But
okay.
Yes. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, there's... At a time, anyone who's, like, out and about, there was a time where, like, a shitty song came on, and you were like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You know? Because that happens.
I have Vanilla Ice on cassette single. I have Ice Ice Baby.
I definitely. I don't know where my singles are anymore, but I had the not only the Vanilla Ice to the Extreme cassette tape, the full album, but also a I want to say like a live Vanilla Ice cassette tape.
Oh God!
To be fair though, I was 10.
Yeah. Okay.
And you were 15, so or thereabouts.
About that, yeah.
So
no,
I'm
no
defending
judgment.
myself.
No judgment. No judgment.
And like I said, I'd Pump Up the Jam for sure. And CNC Music Factory definitely had that full album.
Well, but
a lot of classics on there. Things that make you go, You had.
I was already.
Now I can't remember the big hit. What was the big hit?
No.
It was like Dance Now, but there was Everybody Dance Now. There you go.
Everybody Dance. God.
Dun,
my aunt gave me. I'll put it this way. My aunt, as a graduation present, gave me like 3 cassettes, and one of them was CNC Music Factory. And I opened it up, and I could see my brother in the back laughing because he saw my face just kind of drop. Like, shout out to Annie. Sorry.
I also you may know this from the radio because it came up a few times, but my grandfather was in the music business most of his life.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And mostly was kind of a classic, Jewish dude in the record business in the 50s and stuff. But late in life, had retired from his main job as a executive and moved to Florida, as old New York Jews will do. And
no stereotyping whatsoever.
Yeah, it's my Jewish family, so yeah.
Exactly.
In living in Pompano Beach, Florida, a young man by the name of Luther Campbell was looking for an experienced record executive to help him run Luke Records.
At the time, Luke Skywalker Records?
Yes. So my grandfather was a major executive, I guess, or board member, something in the, basically a dude to help Luke figure out the record business.
Wow.
So I have some sweet old 2 Live Crew gear, man. And I still remember it. Was Me So Horny like 91? I want to say it's right around
90.
there.
At
90?
least 90, yeah.
Maybe even 89.
Yeah,
I remember the day. It was whatever year it was, at my grandparents' condominium in Florida. And my whole dad's side of the family was there. So it was my dad's parents and his sister and her kids were there, and me and my little sister. And I have 2 cousins on that side, one a little older, one a little younger. And it was, whatever the ages were, it was just at the point, or maybe it's just that my aunt was an irresponsible parent, but
nothing wrong with that.
Only my older cousin was allowed in the room as the adults in the family screened the first cut of the Me So Horny video.
So it was like a private viewing party.
Me and my little sister and my younger cousin were not allowed to watch. It was inappropriate. And I also remember an incredible story, sitting in the car with my dad and grandfather, and my grandfather telling my dad a story about the actual album cover that Luke had proposed. That,
do you remember what it was?
Not entirely, but I remember it. I think it in some way involved him sitting on a toilet that was essentially a throne surrounded by naked women. Something in that vein.
Doesn't sound too far-fetched.
Something that fits perfectly with what you know of Luke in 1991 or whatever it is. And I think this was Luke's solo. This was post 2 Live Crew. This part of the story.
Okay.
Obviously, Me So Horny was 2 Live Crew.
Right.
But yeah, so Luke Records, Skywalker Records. I had a lot of that stuff is now worn out and has fallen by the wayside, but I still have some sweet old Band in the USA gear and
God, you know how
stuff like that.
Not that you're not.
I didn't realize
popular.
at the time who he was, though.
Right.
You know.
But if you walked around with one of those old school Luke Skywalker T-shirts,
I still rock the Band in the USA hat sometime. It's real sweet. It's like blue bill, white hat. It says Luke Band in the USA in, I think, in red, and has like sort of pinstripes on it.
Nice.
I mean, it's a beat up old hat, but it is pretty sick. It's pretty great.
But
yeah, no. So I didn't really realize who 2 Live Crew were until much later, or like the impact of 2 Live Crew.
Right.
You know? But I still remember those funny moments. So yeah, I guess I guess I have a hip hop roots in my family, as it turns out.
That's
I don't know how much my grandpa ever listened to the music either. I think he was just. But my nana still has a gold record on the wall. There's a gold record, and it's the one. It might be Me So Horny, but whatever it is, it's the cover with just like
the 3, 4 women. Yeah,
it's like 4 to 6 just big asses in bikinis.
That's
right on my nana's wall.
If I'm not mistaken, it's the title of that album is As
Nasty
as They Wanna Be.
That's what it is.
Your poor nana. Every
My
once
nana
a week
still has it.
Polish that or dust it off.
I don't think she's doing that anymore, but it is in the house. Yeah. Yeah, really excellent.
Oh my god. Oh, fuck, Matt, this has been fucking incredible. We're definitely gonna drink some more beers. But all right, so we'll start wrapping it up. As a hip hop head,
yeah,
what do you see? What you told me, you're obviously listening to Migos.
Yeah.
Is there anything else besides anything you might have mentioned on the podcast, or mention it again? What is there anything my audience could benefit from, as far as like, hey, you might have heard this, check this out, check these guys out. The guy from Evanston, what was his name?
Kweku Collins, Kweku Collins, like you'd expect.
Got
it. This is sort of a band hip hop crossover kind of thing. Also, I believe, certainly Midwest, if not Chicago local, a band who just released a new album called Sidewalk Chalk.
Why does that sound familiar to me?
You might have heard of them.
Okay.
The album, I believe, is called An Orchid Is Born.
Okay.
But you should double check. Sidewalk Chalk is the name of the band.
Okay.
It's more like a band with an MC and also a singer sort of thing, but I really like them on the mind because they just released this new album.
Okay.
Like I said, for me, Chance and Kendrick are really like, in terms of like the mainstream, that's what I'm watching. What other? So because of Kweku Collins and also because of a show I saw, are you aware of I guess she's a rapper, No Name?
Can't say I am.
That's one that she's very, very like left of center, very off kilter sort of stuff. So it's a little weird. It's not for everyone, but I like it a lot. And if you're into stuff like, if you're sort of like a Jay Dilla head and you like those sorts of weird sort of off-kilter beats and not exactly off rhythm, but sort of weird rhythm raps, she's really interesting. And because of a show of hers that I saw and other people who were at that show, I sort of dove down the rabbit hole of a label in Chicago that I'm going to try to figure out right now because I can't remember, but there was a producer who I think is just one guy who goes by Odd Couple on that, who was doing some really interesting stuff. This is getting very... Here we go. Odd Couple... Joey Perp, Odd Couple. So the mixtape is called Liberation.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember what the damn... So I discovered him through Kweku Collins. All these people are on the same damn label, and some of them have been like Chance collaborators. There's sort of this whole... Joey Perp is in this group. There's this whole sort of underground Chicago thing that I'm kind of hooked into, and that may be as much just me being a Chicago nerd as anything.
Within your rights.
Yeah, Odd Couple is the producer's name, and his mixtape is called Liberation, and I think it's really interesting.
Okay.
But that distracted me from something else I was actually going to say, because there is something new that's slipping my mind now that I definitely would want to recommend. But speaking of guys named Joey, that's what it is. Joey Badass, I really like.
Love Joey Badass. Those kids I mentioned, I said, hey, check this guy out. He's new, but he sounds old school. And they came back, he's so dope. I go, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Love Joey Badass.
I like him a lot. Okay, so let's recap. Odd Couple, good producer, interesting mixtape, a lot of interesting young rappers on it. Kweku Collins, I'm a fan. The guy I was thinking of is, have you heard Amine?
Sounds familiar,
we're getting more in the pop vein here.
Okay.
His big song was Caroline.
Okay, yeah.
And he has a new track called Red Mercedes that's also a ton of fun. Like, this is a guy who I think is combining some of the party rap elements with, like, good songcraft. And he's actually clever lyrics and both funny and interesting, you know? This is a guy who... There's an EP called... Oops. Oh, that's another one. The EP is called Calling Brio.
Okay.
Brio. And I think it's a free download.
Okay. We like free here at the Beer Flow.
Hell yeah. And then the two singles are Caroline and Red Mercedes, which are on YouTube and every damn thing. And I think he's going to blow up. He's an Ethiopian dude from Portland.
Quite the mix.
Right? And then two other guys I would mention that probably cross into R&B a little more. Anderson .Paak.
I'm on the fence about him. Like, to me, he's like the hip hop version of Florence from Florence and the Machine. The whole album is great, but for some reason, they just shine on other people so much brighter. I don't know what it is.
Huh.
Like,
I see what you mean. Like the guests on his tracks. Well, an interesting thing to that point is here's another thing I can recommend.
Okay.
The Song Exploder podcast.
Okay.
For hip hop fans, there aren't not quite as many episodes as for rock or just general music fans, but the idea of the podcast is brilliant. It's this guy with an incredibly difficult to pronounce, I believe, Indian name.
Okay.
But I'll try it. It's something like Hirishikesh Herway.
Strange.
I tried. And he is like a former musician or current sort of musician who has this incredible like NPR voice. So everything he says is like very peaceful. And today I talked to so-and-so. And but each episode it's just him introducing it basically.
Okay.
And then it's an artist, a producer, a group of three people just taking one of their songs and breaking it apart into all its pieces and like telling the story of how it came to be, essentially.
Wow.
So like there's a Joey Badass one.
Okay.
Where they talk to the producer about how the beat came about, and they talk to him about the lyrics, and they've had all sorts of people. He did a series with Oscar scores where he had the guys who wrote, like the guy who did the score for Midnight, for Moonlight.
Okay.
Racist Kolsky. And
I was
La
thinking
La
about
Land.
that.
No, it's Moonlight. So the guy who did the score for Moonlight, which was super interesting because it's like 3 variations on the same theme. Anyway, Song Exploder podcast, they break down music and explain it, which is fun if you're a music head.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And there's a handful of hip-hop ones, although it's mostly like indie rock, I would say.
Nothing wrong with that.
But it's still, if you like music, it's really interesting to listen to. But yeah, I don't know why I got distracted by Song Exploder. We were talking about Anderson .Paak, and yes, that's why. Because Anderson .Paak, I learned from Song Exploder, it may have been the Joey Badass episode, or maybe it was a different hip-hop one, where someone was like, so then we just called Anderson .Paak to like come over and help us finish the thing, because like he's it's like that's what he does. And I was like, oh, I see.
But I mean, because I look forward to anything where like, oh, and Anderson .Paak sounds like, okay, cool. But then I listened to his album, was like, it just didn't have the same. I guess
it's like it's not a hip hop album, and that might be part of it.
Well, I mean,
it's a weird sort of fusion thing that he's doing.
Which I don't mind.
I know.
It was I don't know.
Interesting. Well, I'm a fan, but it is specific, I think.
Maybe.
It's like a very particular brand of like hip hop R&B fusion, funk. I will say this. I think seeing him live would sell you on him.
Oh no, I've seen him live. I'm like, this dude's great.
He's
this dude's
excellent
incredible.
live.
Right.
Plays the drums.
Well, that's what's that guy? The Tyler. What's his name?
Tyler, the Creator.
Yes, I've seen him live first. It's like that dude's awesome. Then
right, and then it's a little disappointing. Yeah,
I
agree.
Sucks.
Yeah, he's a little too weird on an album, but it works live.
It totally works.
Yeah. So Anderson .Paak and Kate Renata, the DJ. You know Kate Renata?
No.
Check out his album. I think it's called like 99.9% or something like that.
Okay.
He's another guy who does a lot of collaboration. You'll see a lot of like production by Kate Renata or like, featuring Kate Renata somewhere.
Okay.
I think he's really interesting. And it does tilt more towards like R&B fusion kind of, but a lot of good beats.
Okay.
I would recommend. Yeah. Yeah, that's a handful of things. That's a starter list,
Yeah.
Burn through those. Call me again. I'll come up with new recommendations.
Don't test me. I will. I'll meet you out here. All right. Well, Matt Kolsky, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
And before we leave, plug away. Tell the audience about your podcast.
Yeah, the Toy Department. It's fun for the whole family. Hopefully. I co-host a podcast with an old coworker by the name of Derek Madden, who currently is the program director of a station in Minneapolis, but you may know from he worked at The Bone here in San Francisco. He was the afternoon DJ for a few years. He was at Live 105 for a few years. Longtime music radio guy.
Okay.
And it's a podcast about everything that's not serious. The Toy Department is the Toy Department of life. It's music and sports and movies and a lot of TV. Just an awful lot of television.
Absolutely
because we try to get movies and music in as much as possible, and we talk about the big sports stuff. But TV is damn interesting these days, man, and there is a lot of it. So if you are a TV watcher, I think we do a decent job of covering the whole TV landscape and telling you what's good and what isn't. And I think it's a lot of fun. I honestly, we just started it as just a thing to do on the side for a few laughs every week. But I think we've got something pretty good. So would recommend 5 stars.
Absolutely.
Check us out. We're
Please.
on iTunes and all that good stuff.
Check them out. This is your boy Greg signing off on the Beer Flow. Matt Kolsky, thank you so much. And my parting words, a hot dog is not a sandwich.
Agreed.
All right, we'll catch you guys in a few minutes. 15 for 12 coming up. How dope was that? Kolsky was awesome. He was a good guy, great interview, had tons of fun. We were actually, before we turned on the mic, we were talking. He's just a cool guy, really down to earth. Great time talking to him. Shout out to Matt Kolsky. Thanks a lot once again. So awesome. But the one thing I noticed, and more than likely you noticed, was we didn't talk about beer. We talked about it a little bit. I mean, we had beers in front of us, and it wasn't until after we shut off the mics that we started talking beer. And we started talking about what I asked him what he was drinking. I got him a beer, and what he told me was that he liked like Scottish ale types, darker stouts, things like that. He was mentioning how he wasn't a big IPA fan. I mean, he likes IPAs and appreciates them, but not how crazy everyone's getting. Very reminiscent of the not to name drop, but what Dan Gordon said about ABC beers. So I get it. So for this week's 15 for 12 special edition shout out to Kolsky. I am here at home recording this, and what I have in front of me is the AleSmith Speedway Imperial Stout with coffee. Now, this thing is freaking huge. It's okay. So, for those of you who don't know, AleSmith, they are out of SoCal. They're out of San Diego, and their Speedway Stout. For one, overall, they are just a great brewery. They make some great beer, and the Speedway Stout is it's one of the more popular ones, and I know it's pretty sought after up in these parts. But this thing, be forewarned, it is a 12.0 ABV. And now I've let it sit out for a little bit to sit here. On the can, it actually gives you gives you how to drink it. Drink it fresh, drink it in a goblet for, at about 50 to 55 degrees. Okay, I get that. And I'm going to take heed. If they gave me the suggestion, you better damn well sure I'm going to take the suggestion. So let's pour away and see what's going on here. Hold on. Holy majoli. Okay, so what I have is the pint can, and one of the more, and follow me here, one of the more romantic things about people's love for Guinness is that pouring and the cascading, pouring this beer in the goblet. Yeah, you get kind of that same effect, that same kind of cascade, but like super dark black, with a nice, just caramely, creamy head. Let's check out the nose. Okay, we got that nice dark toastiness. Little hint of licorice on the nose, but let's sink our face into this. Hold on. Oh man. Woo. That is definitely warm going down. You can feel that it's definitely a higher ABV beer, more than your average whatever IPA. Maybe it's going to go down like a double IPA, but it's not like super boozy, punch you in the face. Not like a lot of barrel stouts that are real heavy, like bourbony or anything like that. No, none of that. This is just a great, just like the definition says, imperial stout with coffee. Really good. Big coffee notes, a little bit of chocolate. Oh, really good. I think one of the things I don't like about some of your higher ABV, like stouts or porters, are the sometimes it gets pruny, where it kind of tastes like prune. None of that here. None of that. That there is that anise licorice little hint in the background towards the end, but overall just like great coffee flavor and a little bit of creaminess, almost like an espresso. When you get a shot of espresso, you get the crema on top. Yeah, you definitely get that in this beer. So that's it. That's our 15 for 12 for this week. We're only going to do one. Well, for one, because Kolsky had mentioned he liked stouts and big beers like that. And to be honest with you, that's all I want to do today. At 12%, this thing is great and it will hold up. I'm just going to drink this instead of two, and we're good. Thank you once again. Thank you for the love and support. Thank you for hanging with us for our second season. If you haven't gone, take a look at take a listen to our first season. We're on all the major platforms: iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube. I don't think I'm forgetting anything, but I mean, if I am, my bad. Check out our website, thebeerflow.com. Check us out on Instagram, The Beer Flow. Check us out on Untapped, The Beer Flow. We friend everyone. We got the love. We're all about spreading the love. We're helpers here at The Beer Flow. Let's do this together. We can get through all this stuff. And on that note, I'm not going to leave you without a jam of the week. And of course, I'm going to sit here and by all means, I'm going to take the advice of a guest. So, in listening and talking with Kolsky, this week's Beer Flow Jam of the Week, and I've been trying to tell you guys, I'm trying to change my way of thinking, change things up. A lot of this season, yeah, you're going to hear the term post-woo. Yeah, I know, I said it. So this week's Jam of the Week, Post-Woo, from the 2015 album, Say It Here While It's Safe. Funny how that's kind of predicted in 2015. Anyway, my man, Quico Collins. I hope I'm saying it right. Yeah, I was listening to his album. Listening to a lot of music. It was great. Yeah, it's good. Very melodic. Very like if you like Chance and you like the musicality of it, of Chance, you're gonna love this dude. This is great. He's really cool. Very melodic. So this week's Beer Flow Jam of the Week by Quico Collins. The song "Lovely Lullabies." That's it. Thank you so much once again for the love, support from all of us here at the Beer Flow. Your boy Greg here, Einstein in the back, Real Deal back there. Thank you so much. And don't forget our motto here at the Beer Flow. Don't be afraid to open up your mind. Thank you so much. Thank you, Matt Kolsky. Shout out Matt Kolsky. Shout out to the Missouri Lounge in Berkeley. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
You see what no one sees in me. Been here for my episode. Stay for season 3. Stay for me to leave. Nah, stay for me to be here. To be the beating heart you seek what seems somebody fearful. To be the bleeding lungs for your final breath of air. Even though I have nothing more for me to spare. Even though I have nothing but myself to share.